Hello and welcome to today's recording of the breathing workshop that we held a couple of weeks ago, and this is one of the topics that I've wanted to talk about for quite a while, and like on the title of the slide here, how to get the most out of your exercise program by getting your breathing right. And as I'm going to show you, you'll be surprised just how much the breathing affects every single thing that you do, whether it's to lose weight or reduce stress or improve flexibility, get stronger. It plays a huge role in achieving any of those goals. So I'm going to try and keep this video very short. I'm going to try and condense an hour presentation into about 15 minutes here. So let's get into it. So the mission today is to try to provide you with information about the importance of breathing correctly to achieve your health and fitness goals. So you should leave the end of this presentation armed with better tools. Probably, like we're skimming over it quite quickly, but you will definitely, by the end of these 15 minutes, if you can stay and watch the whole lot of this, definitely know a lot more than you ever did before, and have a lot more education about how it can affect your health significantly if you don't do it right, and also understand what right is. So here's some simple facts that you might want to know. Basically, if you stop breathing, you've got about 3 or 4 minutes before you're dead, right? So it's very crucial to remember that, and we're going to come back to that several times. Acid-alkaline balance, or your pH balance, this breathing maintains that, and this is a huge factor in trying to lose weight, right? Or improve your health if you have immune problems. And again, we're going to go over that. Breakdown of food, again, weight loss is a huge factor in this. Influences your posture. Posture influences every single movement you do. All right, so breathing, by the way, would be the #1 influence of posture. All right, so also acts as a key component for your stabilization system. So your diaphragm that provides a lot of your breath is also a muscle that provides stiffness and stability for your spine. Another thing here is it generates cerebral fluid, which is very, very important to maintain a healthy spine, right? And controls emotion, right? So we sort of already know a lot of these things. There's a lot of things you don't know, and the things you do know, you're probably maybe not doing very well or forget about it. So this is a good sort of way to bring it back to the top of your mind. All right, now I'm going to show you we could spend 15 minutes just on this, but basically, I'm just going to whip through this very quickly. This is a totem pole designed by Paul Chek. You can look up Chek Institute. Paul Chek's got a gazillion videos on YouTube. I'd highly recommend you go and watch all of them, and you'll learn heaps more than I'm going to show you in this video. But more or less, he's devised this totem pole, which means that we're like a system of systems, and whatever's at the top of the totem pole, which in this case is breathing, anything underneath it, your body will sacrifice in order to try and improve its breathing. So it's pointless trying to treat an injury or design an exercise program to change someone's posture if their breathing is terrible to begin with. So meaning the very first thing you must do is to improve breathing. Each section on the totem pole represents a different sort of hierarchy. So the first one here is the breathing, then it's mastication, which is eating. So if you have jaw problems, it's going to sacrifice anything underneath. Visual problems, hearing problems, your cervical spine, there's your internal organs, this little green angry face here is your emotional system. Then you sort of move down into the pelvis and the bones, and so you can see right at the very bottom, this little guy in the corner here is like a slave, so meaning that anything under C2 in your neck is pretty much sacrificed, your bones, your muscles, everything. They have nothing lower than them. So meaning that if there's anything up above them that's unhappy, it's going to be sacrificed to try and make them happy. All right, so you could be changing your posture to improve the way you breathe because you can't get enough air, or you might be stealing calcium from your bones because you're not getting it from your food and your organs are not happy. So you see how that will work. But my point is that this relating to breathing is nothing is higher than breathing, right? Nothing. So meaning that you must address this first. It must be the most important thing because you will sacrifice it. Remember how we said before, you only got 3 or 4 minutes if you hold your breath before you're dead. And your brain knows this, and your body knows this, so it will make changes in order to improve it if there's a problem. All right, so moving on, acid-alkaline balance and pH balance. All right, so breathing provides oxygen for the metabolism and removes the waste product being carbon dioxide. So that's what you, when you breathe out, is carbon dioxide. Overeating or eating just poor food, processed foods mainly, will cause you to breathe more because you will need to create more carbon dioxide to oxidize the excessive fats and carbohydrates you've eaten. So oxidize means to sort of like break it down. Like, so when you chew, you create hydrochloric acid. When you breathe out, the carbon dioxide helps you to break down the fats and the proteins especially, and the processed foods, because they're very, very hard to break down because they're not natural. Right? They've got a lot of toxic stuff in there that requires more carbon dioxide waste product to get rid of it. So you have to breathe more, meaning you're speeding up your breathing, which is not a good thing. All right? And we'll go into more of that as we go through this, but basically you just need to understand that breathing will help you to control this. All right? So if you eat less processed foods and you work on some of the breathing exercises at the end, you will have a great chance of losing weight and improve fitness without even having to exercise. All right, so, and without really changing, to be an awesome weight loss program, it just doesn't have any processed foods and you just don't overeat anymore. You significantly be improved. All right, so these are the things that people don't work on. They just go and train harder or try some restriction diet that doesn't ever work. And if they just worked on their breathing and make a few modifications, it would be easier. All right, so some of the other things, so the things to avoid all processed foods, like we spoke about, dairy and wheat, they're probably the two biggest ones too, because these are both linked to food intolerance, which set off chain reactions of symptoms. They could make it very hard to breathe correctly. So a lot of asthmatics will really struggle to eat dairy or wheat, but very much so dairy. Right? It just creates too much mucus, blocks the airways, makes you breathe harder because you can't get enough air. Change your posture to bring your head forward. Remember the totem pole there, start changing everything to try and find more breath. All right, so the thing you really do want to eat more of is more fish and vegetables. All right, these are very much alkaline type foods. Red meat, even though it's a good protein and fat source, it's very acidic. So if you've already got an acidic problem from breathing too much, you want to sort of try and create an alkaline balance. So all vegetables are excellent because they're water-based, which means it's more alkaline. And fish is a much better protein source because of the omega-3 content. All right, and it helps you to fight inflammation and reduce the acid buildup within you. All right, so nutrition has a major impact on how you breathe. All right, so now when your breathing rate or rhythm is faulty, the acid-alkaline balance is disrupted. So any shift in that pH balance will stress your entire physiology, which is also linked to your psychology. All right, so most common symptoms of the faulty breathing is fatigue. And the Chinese medicine or the Eastern medicine, they call this qi. And it's spelled QI, but it's pronounced qi. All right. And you can use Chai Chi exercises. Meditation is also excellent. Yoga is also excellent for helping you to improve the breathing rhythm and restore the alkaline balance. So you might be fixing your food, but because you've had a poor breathing method for so long, it now becomes a habit, and it's hard to change it because your body's whole physiology. So your physiology is everything to do with your hormonal system, your musculoskeletal system, your endocrine system, everything, your nervous system. It all sort of is tied in together. Nothing is separate from one. Right? You're a system of systems. One will change, set a chain reaction. All right. So now that you know some information about it, you need to start to realise how it will change things. So how does it affect your posture? Well, like we mentioned just then, when you're struggling to breathe, you'll bring your head forward to try and you'll drop your mouth open to get more air in because you're struggling to find the breath. Or you need to speed it up because of the poor foods. Remember, you need more carbon dioxide to break down the proteins and the fats and the processed food. So poor posture will lead to inefficient labour breathing. So it might not have been the chicken, but now it's the egg, and now that egg is laying more eggs. Right, so now it's going to create tension in your shoulder muscles And now you're going to try and use these shoulder muscles and your neck muscles to help you breathe instead of your diaphragm, right? And now you'll have a permanent change of posture, which, yeah, besides creating tension, it'll create pain, it creates fatigue. Now everything's getting sacrificed just in order to maintain the status quo, right? Like we could go on and on for this, but I'm sort of trying to make a point here how the breath changes everything. So what's the correct way to breathe? Well, you should be breathing in and out through your nose as much as you can. Try not to mouth breathe at any time, even when you're exercising. And it's really hard to at first, but the more you practice it, the easier it gets. Belly should rise on the breath in. Quite often when we test people, when we ask them to breathe in, and they take their breath in, their belly goes in. It should actually go out, right? First 2/3 of your breath should be through your belly. If you're taking a really deep breath, the last third of it will be in your chest. If the first third of it is in your chest, you've got a problem. And here's an instance of a mouth breather, and you'll see things of a typical person. They'll have, receding chin, short upper lip, definitely a forward head posture to try and find more air, a flattened nose. This person will have forever chronic tension in their neck and their shoulders for the rest of their life until they address this. And apart from all the other problems that we mentioned earlier, right? So a huge sort of stressful position on the human body to be in that position, right? So that's the correct way to breathe. Now, if I look at the effect on the musculoskeletal system, right, and we'll sort of use the opposites, the yin and yang, all right? So yin and yang, you can't have anything in the world without yin and yang, all right? So you can't have a female without a male because you need the two to create a human. You can't have night without day. Well, you can't breathe in if you never breathe out, right? So extension you can't have without flexion. So extension is when you stand up straight and lift your chest up. Flexion is when you sort of curl yourself over into a ball. Supination is when you roll your hands out or you turn your feet out away from the middle. Pronation is when you turn them in. Now the emotion side of things, calm is on the inside. So it's all these things on this yin side, they're all timed to work together. All right. So being cool, being calm, supinating, extension, are all tied in with breathing in, and stretching is tied into this. All right. Everything on the breathing outside is like turning yourself into a ball, and it's what you would recognise with being stressed, being hot. Contracting muscles. This is contracting. You're still contracting muscles here, but they're very much in a position of lengthening and trying to extend. All right. So this is important when you work this into exercise, knowing when to breathe in and when to breathe out. And we'll give you some examples of that in a second. So Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, like we mentioned before, and here's Melissa doing some Tai Chi exercises, and there's a person here on a rock doing some yoga, meditation. These are all excellent forms of controlled breathing. And I would highly recommend, if you're a person who's got a lot of stress in your life right now, highly recommend make this a daily practice, or at least every third day or something like that, a way of building this into your exercise routine. If you do, you will have significant fitness gains, weight loss gains, strength gains, plus you just feel 10 times millions better by incorporating it into your program. Training harder is just another excellent form of getting more and more stressed out. You need to sort of work out how to reduce your stress levels and how to control your breathing to really get the gains from your program that you're looking for. Okay, so let's have a look at the exercise. All right, so here's a picture of Rozzy, and here's a picture of a guy doing disastrous exercise called a crunch. All right, so the way we breathe when we move is very important. All right, although many people in the gym world are sort of taught backwards, they have no idea of what we just went through, the yin and yang side of things. All right, so easy way to remember how to do it is any time that an exercise moves you into like a ball or a fetal position, that's when you would breathe out. And basically any time you're sort of trying to get taller, that is when you would breathe in, right? So if your arms are moving away from you, if you try and stand up straighter, or you're lengthening yourself in any way, then you'll breathe in, all right? Now this is what I mentioned at the start. This is an important point where when you breathe in and out, and this is where it relates to this crunch exercise, when you breathe in, you activate your cerebral spinal fluid. This is like blood for your spine. It's like the spine essentially needs this fluid running up and down it to sort of like oil it, I suppose you could say. Right, so when you extend, it runs up. When you flex it, it runs down. Right, now when you do a crunch, you're moving yourself into a fetal position, but because you're lying on the floor, you never actually extend. So you only ever send the cerebral fluid down, but it never gets to travel back up. It sort of just gets blocked, right? And that's how you create all sorts of problems through your spine. So crunches should never, ever, ever, ever be done on the floor like that. And no exercise should be done like that unless there's something that counters it. Lying on a Swiss ball will be much better because you can extend over it and you can flex over it. All right. This exercise here of Rosie, which we'll show you in a second, which here it is again. She's pulling this and she's extending, right? She's opening up, so she would breathe in. On the one above us, where she's pushing the weight, she would breathe out, right? Because she's sort of moving, closing herself into a ball to a degree. All right, so all the breathing in exercises excite the extensors, all the breathing out exercises excite the flexors. All right, so just sort of when you're pushing, you're doing chest press or bench press or any of those exercises, breathe out. But when you're doing row or lat pull down, chin up even, breathe in. All right, anytime extending or getting taller. Now this is just to confuse you all. This is when it slightly changes. Like here's a picture of Big Johnny doing a deadlift with what looks like about 160 kilos. Now, the respiratory system has a dual function. The diaphragm becoming, because it's a muscle that creates respiration, it's also a muscle that creates stabilization. So when Johnny goes to lift this, if he was just to breathe in because he's getting taller, he would not be able to lift it for a start, and if he tried to, he probably might hurt his back. What his natural instincts are going to do is, and you can sort of see his lips here, he's taking a sip of breath in, and he's holding that breath just for 1 second, split second even sometimes, because he wants to create stiffness around his spine. All right, so it doesn't sort of pop out and create all problems for him. All right, so when the load gets to quite heavy, you'll need to sort of have a instinct of doing that, and your body will do it not automatically for you. Just don't change it. All right. Now this muscle connects to your ribs and helps stabilize the rest of your body. All right, so when we're in the gym, you're lifting heavy things, or even if you're at home moving furniture or equipment in the backyard, gardening, whatever, you will need to have a method of doing that. All right, so this is where we go over a lot of this in the gym and teach a lot of people the difference between a normal breath and a stabilization breath. Pilates people really get this wrong because they use this sort of breath when they're just moving their own body weight. All right, and that's dysfunctional. That's not normal to do that, and it will create all sorts of problems. All right, so only when the load gets heavy. So if Johnny had only 20 kilos on this, we would tell him to breathe in when he stands up. Because he's got that much on there, we want him to breathe in before he lifts it, hold the breath, stiffen the belly button, then stand up, let the breath out at the top. When he puts it down, he takes a sip of air in, holds the breath, lowers, stiffens himself up, lowers down. When he gets to the bottom, breathes out. All right? So that's stabilization. What about stretching? Well, stretching is also very important. A lot of people hold their breath when they do stretches because they take them too far. When you do that, you're actually contracting the muscle and not lengthening the muscle. So the worst thing you can do is be too aggressive with a stretch and hold your breath. It should be like rocking a baby to sleep, like very slowly, very calmly, trying to encourage the muscle to lengthen and relax and let go of its tension. All right, so very, very important that you can do good breathing on that. And you'll feel the muscle let go after a period of time, especially on the breath out. All right, so now I'm going to move into what's known as Buteyko breathing. You can Google this. This is taken from a lot of this information from the book that you can buy off Amazon, I think for $50 or something. You can even get it with a DVD as well. I'm just sort of going to really whip through this because it's quite a big topic on its own, but basically this method teaches you how to slow your breathing rate down and your volume as well. So how fast you breathe and how much you breathe, and teach you to breathe through your nose. And like we've sort of spoken about, most of us breathe too much because we're stressed out, poor diet, don't exercise enough, and probably talk too much. So this over-breathing becomes a bad habit that sets a chain reaction of symptoms. It can be unlearned, and it can be unlearned very fast, all right, through exercise. Some specific exercises for that matter. So the key for this method is to feel the hunger for air. It's like being suffocated, in a controlled way. So the need for air creates an increase in carbon dioxide in your blood. So your respiratory center tries to elevate your breathing to keep it at a lower level. Basically, after you do the exercise for about 9 to 12 minutes, the feeling or need to breathe by using will reset itself slightly better to reduce your volume. So it sort of makes adjustments very quickly. Like I said a minute ago, the adaptation to these exercises is really, really fast. I know for a fact that I've been doing it myself. And I'll go right at the end. I'll just give you some examples of what I've been doing. All right, so to experience the need for the air, here's a little quick experiment you can do. Just take a small breath in through your nose, gently breathe it out through your nose, then hold your nose and wait until you feel the need for breath. That is not too stressful. That's sort of what the feeling of hunger for air, and you want to sort of have that feeling more often. The more you do it, the better. All right. Why nose breathing? Well, like we spoke about before, the mouth breathing is terrible, creates all sorts of problems for you. But apart from all that, it creates, like breathing through the nose creates nitric oxide, which you only get when you breathe through your nose, and you carry a small portion of the gas into your lungs. It plays a huge role in the homeostasis of your body, which means controlling all of the nervous system, musculoskeletal system, nervous system, etc. It maintains the balance within your body. Remember the pH balance we spoke about before. Now, because your nostrils have a smaller entry than your mouth, it creates resistance, meaning that you don't get as much volume in, and it creates a calmer and quieter breath. Mouth breathing creates dry mouth bacteria, and if you're doing this while you're asleep, this is what we would know as sleep apnea, snoring, and waking up feeling unrested because, well, your body never really got to recover. Tape on the mouth, if you are a person like that, can be very effective. There's easier ways to do this. If you want to know more, I would highly encourage you to contact me or contact someone from the Buteyko Institute of Breathing, and they'll go through with how to do that. All right, so let's run through a couple of tests. All right, this is where you can see if you are a good breather or not. This is what the Buteyko call the control pause. All right, so the way you do this, you gently breathe out through your nose. Or take a breath in first, breathe it out, hold your breath until you feel the need to breathe, and you should time that breath. All right. At the end of that, you shouldn't go to the point where you're struggling and you're strained and you have to open your mouth. You should be able to get straight back into nose breathing. It should be calm and gentle. All right. Now let's have a look at your scores. If you're less than 10 seconds, well, you're a terrible breather. You're going to have all sorts of asthma, sleep-related problems. Wheezing, coughing will be frequent. And I have seen many people with this sort of score. Less than 20 seconds, believe it or not, is probably the most common, all right, especially with gym goers. And they have no idea that they were that bad. Between 20 and 40 is starting to, you're starting to get significantly better. However, any sort of a trigger, like stress as an example, or poor food, will straight away bring your weight right back down under 20 again. Over 40 seconds is where you want to get to, but you need to be there for about 6 months, according to the Buteyko Institute, all right, for you to be permanently rid of any triggers or anything that can set it off again. When I was first doing this, I was probably getting about 16, 17 seconds. Within about 2 months, I'm up to about 59 seconds now. All right, so just from using simple exercises and breath holds and being more aware of my breath, breathing through my nose more often than through my mouth. All right, so there's the simple test. There's your how to measure where you are. All right. Now, how to improve it? Well, if you've got a blocked nose for a start, this is how you unblock it. Always remember when you do these, sit up straight. You can't get a good breath if you're sort of hunched over and in poor posture. All right, so unblock your nose. Same sort of thing as the test. You breathe in, breathe it out, pinch your nose and hold your breath. Now, while you're pinching your nose, just nod your head back and forth, like flex your head, nod it to your chest, and then look up to the roof. Do that, say, 5 or 6 times. Then take another couple of breaths in through your nose again, and then just keep repeating it until your nose unblocks. So I've tried this myself because I had a lot of sinus issues, and then probably the 4th or 5th time I started to get a runny nose and my nose cleared up, which made it easier for me to breathe. Now, this is an excellent test. It's a very sort of gentle one. They call it the feather, and basically, again, you sit up straight, put your finger under your nose, just under above your top lip, just under your nostrils. Don't close your nostrils though, sort of just have it in front of it. Breathe air slightly into the tip of your nostrils, and then as you exhale, pretend that your finger is the feather and that the feather doesn't move while you breathe out. If you can feel warm air on your finger, then you're sort of breathing too big. Right? Your goal is to try and make the breath not warm on your finger and that very, very calm. So it means that there's a very reduced breathing volume, very, very soft and quiet breath. If you can get the hang of this exercise, you'll be significantly better. And you could try this when you're very stressed out. Very hard to do, but if you can do it, it's amazing how different your stress level will be. Walking while exercising is also good, so do it while you're walking. So you can practice like always keeping your mouth closed and practice like breath holds of 5 to 20 steps. Then breathe in and out through your nose again for 30 seconds. Try it again and just keep repeating it until you finish your walking. All right, it'll create a real need for air because you're moving. You're creating more carbon dioxide from moving anyway. All right, so this is another excellent one that anyone can do. Now, the essential rules. Most accurate control pulse is first thing in the morning because it's when you're most rested. Like I mentioned a minute ago, trying to aim for 40 seconds or more. Try to stop big breathing all the time. Close your mouth as much as you can. Try to prevent sighing. Apply gentle, calm breathing, like using the feather test. Try to never hear your breathing during rest. Practice reduced breathing during walking or even weight training for that matter. And breathe through your nose all the time. If you can do that and administer a lot of the other things that we've spoken about during this presentation, this video, you'll be significantly better. Like I said at the start, we've really skimmed over this quite quickly, but if you want more, just either send me an email, nick@noregretspt.com.au, or check out our website. We've definitely put more things on there about this. And I'll help you out as best I can. I'd highly recommend check out Buteyko on the internet as well. Order their book from Amazon, and I'll look forward to seeing you or hearing from you and seeing the progress you make with your breathing. All right. Until the next video, I'll see you then.